Hello everyone, I'm your host, your SCP host, Skills to Play, and welcome to episode 3 of Inside Northwood. Today, we interview Robert, a HR representative, about what goes on behind the scenes in Northwood, why cats are almost akin to a currency, and how Northwood is organized. Stay tuned! Well, before we begin, welcome to my series Inside Northwood. Today, we are interviewing someone from Human Resources. So you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yep, hello. My name is Robert, but I also go by Combat Swift. I'm a human resources representative for development and public relations at Northwood Studios. Basically, I'm the guy who throws rocks at people when they're being stupid.
How big are those rocks?
Depending on how stupid they're being. I have very widely sized ones for if they're being very stupid, they get the bigger sized rocks.
Gotcha. So let's go ahead and start with the first question. When did you discover Northwood and or SCP Secret Laboratory?
Ooh, okay, I discovered SL around the time the game itself came out. Probably a year after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I played it. I used to play a little bit on and off, and then I quit the game. And then I rejoined it again around I want to say 2019, 2020, and I was just kind of playing on random servers there. I was not at Northwood at this point in time. I used to moderate for a server that a few people might remember. It was Rampant Warriors before they went defunct. Used to mod for them, and then I quit the game again. And then about a year or two later, I came back and I started playing on the Northwood Canada 1 official. And I kind of fell in love with the game again, so I started playing a lot more, and that's how I found SL. And in regards to getting into Northwood, I was playing Canada 1, the Northwood official, and I seen that they have a job, application open, and so I applied, and I was accepted as a official server moderator, and that kind of started my Northwood journey right there.
Very interesting. A lot of people are similar in that regard to going on and off of SL. That's the same for me. I'll play for a long time and then I'll stop and play something else.
Oh yeah, no, I would always come back literally after a big update dropped, and not even on purpose either. So I would just immediately be a idiot of how to play the game again and be completely unaware of what's going on. I remember one of the times I rejoined was I think it was after Scopophobia. And I was looking at 096 and I'm like, wow, it's not shit anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I remember Scopophobia. That's a long time ago. It's crazy.
Yeah. So good times.
Mm-hmm. So when you got into Northwood, did you start as human resources or did you begin in a different department?
No. Okay. So my little Northwood journey is pretty long. I did not originally start in human resources. So as I said, I joined Northwood as an official server moderator for the official server moderation team, and I was in that rank for quite a bit. I got promoted up to senior moderator down there, and then eventually I was promoted to supervisor. And I was supervisor for quite a long time down there. And then human resources coordinator applications opened, and I'm like, oh well, that sounds interesting. What the hell? I'll apply for it. And I applied, and I got accepted. So for a while, I was both HR and supervisor. And then eventually, human resources representative applications opened, and I applied for that. And then I got that position. And with how we have rules within HR, human resources representative, you cannot be in any other teams. So I had to resign from OSM supervisor. And then at this point, I've been HRR for forever now.
Very interesting. Why can you not be in other teams as HR?
It's mostly out of a concern for bias, because we work on other teams. Let's say I worked as a programmer, and then I'm also the representative for development. If one of these teams has a issue with another team, then there's concerns that I'm on programming, so I might be more inclined to agree with the team I work for.
Mm-hmm.
So we've never had an issue with that happening, but it's more of a kind of preventative measure. We just don't want that avenue open up. We don't want, someone to be able to say, well, oh, he's on that team, so he's, being biased towards that one, even if they aren't. So it's just a general rule we keep. There are a few exceptions, like HRRs are allowed to be in QA because it's a bit of a lower team. They don't particularly get involved too much in big affairs. They just kind of check things. I mean, they are a very important team, obviously, but that is one of the teams that I would technically be allowed to be in if I wanted to. But other ones, it's just out of a bias concern, we're not allowed to be on them.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So kind of similar to the last question, what made you interested in human resources?
I felt like I could have more of an impact on Northwood and, help that team more than compared to OSM supervisor. That was the main reason I joined Northwood into the first place. I wanted to help the game that I liked, help the studio that made the game. I made a lot of friends from SL, and I wanted to kind of give back to the studio that made that possible. So I thought, as HR, I can definitely do that a lot more compared to OSM supervisor.
That makes sense. What do you like best about human resources?
I would have to say the hiring. I like bringing people into the studio and watching them, help SL in their own way with their own talents and skills. Helping craft new things and bring new ideas to the table that people hadn't thought of. Just the general, just a very nice kind of thing to do. It's I had a part in that, seeing them immediately get to work and bring up this new proposal or new idea, or we could do this in a different way and this is better, and I kind of feel a sort of sense of pride from doing that. I help bring them onto the team. I'm in some way responsible for that.
That's cool. Yeah. Now, similarly, what's the most challenging part of your job or human resources?
Disciplinary items, probably. I don't really enjoy having to sit down with staff and scold them for doing stupid things, but someone has to do it, and that falls to me. So I will do it when needed, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
So you mentioned onboarding new employees and how you enjoyed that. So when onboarding a new employee, how do you ensure they feel welcome and part of the team?
Well, once we onboard a new employee, once we give them all the documents to read and stuff, we welcome them directly in the general chat within the staff server, and this immediately leads to the entirety of the studio pinging the new person and welcoming them, which can be a bit overwhelming, but it's all done in good fun. New people joining Northwood is seen as kind of a celebratory thing. The studio gets very excited for that, seeing new faces, having new blood into the studio. So it's a very looked forward to event, and we try to encourage that, have them interact with the studio, have them meet people, talk to them, stuff like that. There's also a big we have a unofficial rule set on there that if they have any cats, they have to provide photos of them.
Yeah, I've seen cats are a very big part of Northwood culture.
Yes, that's how I bribe Huber to do things. I send him cat pictures.
Going back to more so your career, what is something you're most proud of so far?
Okay, that'd have to be the org chart. Prior to the one I made, I made it with a friend of mine, it was very ugly. And I mean very, very ugly. It was it was made in both of them are in Google Slides, but I don't know who made the prior one, but they did not have a sense of creativity at all. It was very weirdly sized. It was just kind of everywhere, heavily outdated. It just looked like shit, to be plain and simple. So when I got into HR, one of the things I kind of asked was can I please, for the love of God, replace that derelict relic that should be set on fire long ago? And I was approved for that, so I got to work. And there's a lot of reiterations of it over the years. Development keeps adding new positions, which makes me keep having to fix it, and I keep having to throw rocks at Ender's window for doing that because it's annoying. But at this point in time, the new one looks a lot better. It's a lot cleaner. It has a lot more features that the old one didn't have. It actually states who managers are. It provides contact information. It has all the position docs for said teams. It's, updated fully. It's just generally a nicer looking, better functional thing.
It's been useful. Like when I've looked at it, it's very useful to see like all the different things. It'll be useful for me to like contact people for interviews as well, and make that a lot easier.
Yeah, no, it was a bit of a pain to figure out how to do that. I wanted to originally have it display like the entirety of the profile, like have like the profile picture and stuff like that, but there's no really easy way to do that with how slides work. Discord does offer an API for it, but getting slides to, take that API and actually update all that is not an easy task. It's probably doable, but I am not a person like that is really good with code and figuring out how to get that to work. So I opted for a bit of a simpler approach using one of those websites that just kind of displays it when you click it.
And I thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I think it turned out pretty well. I'm happy with it. I do kind of edit it here and there a little bit. I'll see something wrong with it, like those godforsaken lines. One of my gripes with fucking slides is how they handle their dumb lines. They just don't work right, and they always go the wrong way, and they're crooked, and it annoys me.
It is a little tedious sometimes. So, what is the day-to-day like in human resources?
Usually just the general administrative mumbo jumbo, checking emails, making sure everything is logged and up to date, making sure our org chart's up to date, updating the credits, if we have applications open, reading over newly submitted applications and providing it to like the corresponding managers and supervisors, sending them emails back stating that like, it was received, we're reviewing it. Just general random tasks, or we're delegating stuff to the human resources coordinators like, hey, check this, log that, do this, do that. Some days we don't really do much, some days we do more, some days, like recently we've had a lot of work to do with applications because we have a lot of positions open currently. So there's a lot of applications incoming. So we have to check those, review them, add them to the HR server, have the managers review them, make them make a decision on it, and then kind of go at that point.
Gotcha.
So it depends, really. That's my answer.
So how many cats do you have?
I have one cat, and her name is Swifty, and I leak all the Northwood development stuff to her. She is well aware of the upcoming toilet update and how 14.0 will contain.
Awesome. So I know you mentioned you have to be vague with this one, but how often are cases brought towards human resources?
Well, it's not really that I have to be too vague with it. This is a honest answer I can give you, is there's really no real statistic I can give you. It's just very random. Like, there's not like a number that like we get per week. It just comes in randomly. But when one does come in, we handle it accordingly. And similar to like cases, is it ever difficult to deal with someone that's been reported to human resources, like a staff member? It can sometimes, but as HR, we try to stick to the facts and put aside any relationships we have with the person. But if we feel we can't handle a case due to possible bias, like if we're friends with them, if we worked with them before, we hand it off to another person in HR. We'll hand it off to another human resources representative. We'll hand it off to the HR director, something like that.
Gotcha. Is it true you have to forego all morals when entering into human resources?
No, we are not machines. We're normal people, just like all the other staff and the players, and we try to do our best where we can.
Yeah, I thought of that question as just like a joke question because I've seen memes and stuff about how human resources are just stone cold, no emotion, stuff like that.
The only stone that is around is the ones I throw at staff.
Yep. So moving on from that, how closely does human resources work with other departments?
We work with other departments pretty often, for promotions, disciplinary actions, mediations, etc. Alongside creating new roles for the studio and the removal of old roles, permissions, what a role should and shouldn't have access to. Like using an example, API maintainer, that was not a role a few months ago. They came to us, hey, we want to add this new role, okay. So they had approval from Hubert and Ender, so we got to work on that, getting the position docs for it set up, adding it to the org chart, getting the permissions it needed. getting, the roles and the role colors and et cetera, et cetera.
Now, I did just think of this question because I know you mentioned like a while ago that you were like kind of on and off with SL. Do you still play SL like regularly or not as much?
Not as much. I know that is pretty funny coming from someone that works for Northwood. I'm, pretty busy in life, and when I am available, I'm usually, doing a little bit of HR stuff, or I'm playing with friends. But I mean, I do play SL here and there. If I have time, I'll hop on, I'll play. I have a few friends on there that I play with on there. I kind of just server hop a bit now. I'll hop on like Curva or Canada 1 or, other servers. But I don't like main SL as much as I did back in the day. I'm not on, every day for 4 hours.
So is doing/being in human resources fun?
I mean, I think it is, at least at some points. As I said, I joined HR to give back to the studio, and I like doing that. I mean, I do get enjoyment out of it. I mean, are there times where I'm kind of like, wow, this is really stupid? 100%, definitely. But there's a lot of good times too. As I said, like hiring staff and stuff like that. So I would say I do get enjoyment out of doing it. I mean, if I didn't, I probably wouldn't be in the role.
Yeah. So this last question, can you explain the organization of Northwood? Like how these one artists working on new models, stuff like that.
So I mean, getting into like the organization, we have senior managers and assistants. At the top is the CEO Hubert, the COO, which is Drew Lion. Below them is the directors, human resources, public relations, game, security, community management, alongside the assistant directors for those respective roles. Then we move on to human resources, which is led by the HR director and the assistant HR director. This team has human resource representatives who handle the departmental HR stuff and other affairs, and the other human resources coordinators who handle general administrative tasks, usually assigned by the human resource reps. Then we move on to like the general departments. These are led by their respective directors and the assistant directors, each team being managed by, a manager and a supervisor or supervisors. If you want to see each team, I would encourage you to go to the org chart, that's public. In regards to updates in the general organization of the studio really doesn't have much to do like with that. Some updates just take longer due to the certain features they need, how big they are. Something people need to remember is, Northwood is a volunteer studio. These people, a lot of them, I mean, we do pay developers, but a lot of them, it's not a lot of money. And they're doing this because they like SL and they're working in their own free time. And, in regards to like why one person's working on human models, that's just kind of how it was tasked. That person is like the most qualified to do it. And, when you start giving a task like that to multiple people, just using like 939, for example, the old one, you can get into some differences. I mean, we all remember the two old dogs. Yep. They did not look the same very at all. So, I mean, Purple Goop, they could have easily, that's the artist behind the human models, they could have easily requested another person to help them on it if they wanted to. But they preferred doing it, on their own. And I mean, I'd say they did it very quickly, considering they're the only one working on it. And, they want to give a quality product over something that is rushed and, not ready, and it's broken upon release, and this needs to be fixed. And so that's why it takes longer. And I mean, Purple Goop did have help. Hubert assisted a lot in the human models, doing the animations, implementing them, etc. So I mean, it really just depends on some tasks. Some tasks, they take longer. Some of them, it's more suited to this person. They're better at handling that. It just really depends. I mean, I can't really comment too much on it. I'm not like, I don't do development like items, like, making things. I don't really police or watch over like who they assign things to. I'm kind of just there to make sure that they don't cause any issues, or I'm there to hire new people, etc.
So that question would probably be good for like the managers of the different departments, because then they would have a better understanding of how things are assigned and whatnot in that specific department.
Yeah. Or interview Purple Goop about it. They could probably give a better answer than I can. I mean, I think they'd be willing, but I mean, I'm very impressed with what they did. I think they did a amazing job.
Absolutely.
Very impressed with how they did that. I think, they definitely did a great job. I love the chaos model. That's probably my favorite one.
Oh yeah,
it looks amazing.
Trenchcoat is a personal favorite.
I love the mask. It's just the mask for me. It's just more scarier, in my opinion. It's more like, unseen foe kind of thing. It looks more real.
And like similar to like the models, this isn't like a question, but I've seen people complain about them, which I mean, you know, people can give criticism, that's fine, you don't have to like it. But I think people need to remember that making humans look good is kind of hard.
Oh no, it generally is. I know Purple Goop has said, I'm pretty sure it's in one of the Patreon posts that is public now, that they went over the models multiple times. They would do something like, you know, like the animations, and then they would come back later and be like, oh, this doesn't look right, and they'd fix that, and then they'd come back later and be like, oh, this doesn't look right also, and fix that, and cycle and repeat. So I mean, it's a very long process making things look real and, you know, look different from each other, which was the main goal of the human models, is they wanted each class to be visually different from a distance. Because I mean, right now, if you go into a game of SL, you can sometimes confuse MTF and Chaos from a distance because they're the same build, the same height, they have the same armor, they have kind of the same helmet, kind of. Only difference is the gas mask, but from a model, but from far away, the model, you can't really see that too well. So that was the main goal with why it was done in the first place. And also just to kind of get rid of something that's a very big relic of SL. Those are old fuse models off the toolbox. They're very old.
I heard they're like very hard to work with as well.
I mean, I don't know about that, but I would not be shocked if they were.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I believe those are all the questions I have for you. Do you have any for me?
No.
Awesome. Well then, that's all I have. Thank you for letting me interview you. That was very fun. And it was very insightful into Northwood, HR. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.